Hello, my name is Brian Eno, and by a strange coincidence I was born on the 15th of May 1948, which was also the day that the State of Israel was founded. As a kid I followed Israel because we were sort of brothers, and I was fascinated by the kibbutz movement and found the sort of implied experiment with socialism wonderful and interesting. And it was not until I was really in my 20s that I started to realize that Israel was founded on top of Palestinian villages partly. It wasn't a desert before the Israelis went there. And I started to find out about what had happened to the Palestinians, that they'd been either forced to leave the country or to crowd into what were virtually refugee camps. And then I started to find more about the kind of treatment that they could expect now. How, whereas Jews anywhere in the world had what was called a right of return to Israel, Palestinians who left Israel could never get back there. So the refugees were effectively, now sometimes we have fourth generation refugees in camps in Jordan and around about. So the situation was not good for the Palestinians, and yet they were always portrayed as the terrorists. They were always portrayed as the people who were the problem. And I more and more started thinking about the Wild West, about how the Indians there, the Native Americans, were the problem. They weren't really the problem. The problem was the European settlers who moved in and tried to take their land. What we see now in Israel is a situation rather like this, where Palestinian land that has been farmed and lived on by Palestinians for many generations, is now taken from them and defended against them. And if they make any reaction to this, they become terrorists. Now, I'm sure that this is not the world the Palestinians want to live in, but I'm also sure that it isn't the world that the Israelis wanted to live in. It's not a good situation for either side here. And at this time of year, we should not be thinking so much about who's right and who's wrong, but how could things be better for everybody. I support the boycott because I think that that is a way to make some movement. It's probably the only effective way that I can participate in. I really would like this situation to be better, not only for the Palestinians, but also for Israelis. It isn't good for either side. There are, I'm sure, very few people who support the status quo, and somehow it has to be changed. Now, of course, anybody who does this risks being called anti-Semitic. I'm not anti-Semitic. I don't think that criticizing Israeli government policy makes me anti-Semitic, just as I don't think that criticizing American government policy, which I often do also, makes me anti-American, or criticizing British government policy makes me anti-British. I think that we have a right to criticize, and we have a right to try to improve the world when we see that our politicians are in various forms of deadlock. It's our responsibility to try to do that. It's time to make apartheid history once and for all.